The Entrepreneurial Journey podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass. Where we make it happen, grab your seat, let's have a blast. At the Entrepreneurial Journey podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey podcast. Today I have Tom Crombie and we need to mind our P's and Q's because Tom was once a teacher. Hi Tom, how are you?
Hi, I'm really well, thank you. Lovely to be speaking with you.
Wonderful. So you're the CEO and you're the founder of myonlineschooling.com. And once upon a time you were a teacher. Tell us about that spark of inspiration that got you started with this business.
Yeah, really good question. Yeah, so I was a teacher for around about 10 years, starting my teaching career in Scotland in a state school after I left university. That then took me across the world to New Zealand, where I was a teacher in an international school in Auckland for around about 5 years. And it was in the last kind of couple of years in that school in Auckland, I was a primary teacher, but I was also responsible for implementing IT into the classroom, for rewriting the IT curriculum in the school. And I found a real love of e-learning. For those who don't know the term e-learning, essentially learning through digital interaction in the classroom. And I was responsible for bringing in a number of devices into the school, and I found a real passion there. I found that you could allow young people to access education from an inclusion point of view. Technology was really, really powerful. It could bring more people together. It could bring young people together. And of course, young people today are so digitally literate that I really enjoyed it. Then I returned back to home, back to Edinburgh, and wanted to continue to make a difference, but wanted to challenge myself in something slightly different. And at that time, I could see there was a growing number of young people out of education that didn't have access to education in the way that they deserve. And with my work in the school utilizing technology, I thought there was an opportunity to bring technology together to create a different pathway to education. And so an online school developed. It was a very small scale at the time, back in 2016 when I started the project. But it was that sparked the creation of what we are today.
Cool. I'm going to take you all the way back. Way back. What was the inspiration for being a primary school teacher? Because that's almost a vocation.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I did my first undergraduate degree in geography, and I chose that because I liked my geography teacher at school, and he inspired me, and I liked it, and I was quite good at it. So I went and did a degree, but I had no idea what I was going to do beyond that. Um, I'd always I'd had sort of summer jobs in schools and in sort of teaching sport, and I really enjoyed interacting with young people, and I found that I sort of a love of that in my sort of last year in my undergraduate degree. So primary teaching was something I started to investigate, and I got I went to try and get some experience. It was back at that time, it was quite tough to get a place on the course. So you couldn't go just with your either undergraduate degree or your school grades. You had to have some sort of experience in the field. So I went and volunteered in schools, and I volunteered in special educational needs schools, the Royal Blind School in Edinburgh, and I did a whole pile of things, and I found I loved it. I really enjoyed it, and I applied for my postgraduate in primary teaching at University of Edinburgh, and I was accepted on that, and I've never looked back since.
Nice. So, because I heard you talk last week, which is why I've invited you onto the podcast. And what occurred to me as I was sitting there listening was that, 10 years in primary education and you went to New Zealand. Were you burnt out after 10 years? What was the drive to get you to New Zealand? Because that's a huge move.
Yeah, good question. Lots of people have asked me that. A few things. I think I'd always had it in me um, to want to challenge myself to live abroad. I've always loved traveling. New Zealand is somewhere I'd never visited before, and I just met my partner just about 6 or 8 months before we went, and she was also an avid traveler and somebody who wanted to sort of challenge themselves, and it all happened very quickly. We sort of decided to make the move, and what we thought was going to be a year turned out to be 5. But from a professional point of view as well, I'd done a number of years teaching in Scotland and thoroughly enjoyed it and started my career and did a huge amount of my formative learning in the industry in Scotland. But I wanted to push myself professionally and go and experience what it's like in other schools. I was also really drawn by New Zealand's love of sport. I'm a big lover of sport. I think sports are a really integral, important part of young people's education, and the sort of outward bound sense of adventure that the country brings as well from a teaching point of view. And I wanted to go and experience that. And yeah, really interesting the similarities, but the immense differences in culture, but in school culture as well, and the way things are done across there compared to here in Scotland. So that was the drive, and I said it was a plan to go for a year. 5 years later, we were still there, and got our permanent residency and
Did
started to
you?
develop the accent a little bit.
Right. But you came back. What brought you back?
Yeah, I think we got to 5 years, and one year then became two. Then we thought we'd go after two, and that became three. And the longer you stay in places, the deeper your roots get, and the more we were loving our jobs and friends and just exploring that part of the world where I'd never been before. So we loved it, and it was really tough decision to make the decision to come back. Ultimately, family was a big part of it. It was, I think, we got to that 5 year mark, and we thought, are we going to live here forever? If we're not, maybe it's now the time to go back. But I remember sitting on the tarmac in Auckland Airport, thinking, I think we've made the wrong decision. I think we should stay. And we just loved it so much. I think it's an incredible country, incredible people. Um, but yeah, family was a big draw. It's a long way away, and I was also had in my mind about starting this business, and I felt to do that in the UK was going to be better than New Zealand. So that was part of the drive, but family was the big draw.
And here's a question. Do you think you'd have started any business, had you not had that experience of starting from scratch at the other side of the world?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I do often think about that, because if you were to look at me 10 years ago, the confidence to start a business and to be doing what we had just wasn't there. And I think by moving to the other side of the world proved to me that I can challenge myself and I can put myself in an uncomfortable position. We moved across there. We didn't know anybody there. We had a suitcase each. We'd never been in the country. We didn't even, my partner and I had only known each other, as I said, for a number of months. And, for us to go there and to then, I had an interview in a school the first day I was there, and to get jobs and to make friends and to do all of that, it proved to me that you can embark on something that is new, that you can embark on something that's challenging, and I always have that within me. And when I started the business, I always thought, no, I can do this because I've done that, so I can do this. And I maintain that every day. With anything that I encounter in life, any challenges, I always think back to the things that I've done successfully. And school wasn't easy for me. I had challenges at school, but I got through it. So that was another one to think, well, actually, it was tough, but I can push myself. So I think, whilst probably, yeah, again, the 10, 15 year ago, me was very different and wouldn't have put myself in those difficult situations. Now I thrive off challenge, and definitely impetus to start a business.
Okay, so there's somebody out there. We've got a whole range of listeners. Some haven't started a business, some may be thinking about it. And that risk that you take, because when you start a business, you're betting on yourself, aren't you?
You absolutely are, and risk is huge. It's
What's your advice to somebody who's going, I'm just teetering on the edge.
My first piece of advice would be commit. I returned back to the UK, and actually I got a, because we'd done a bit of traveling before we came back, and we had nowhere to live. We had no money, we had no car, we had nothing. So I got a job in a maternity cover position in a school in Edinburgh, and a really great school, and I absolutely loved it there. And in the final day of my maternity post there, the principal pulled me into his office. Nobody ever likes to be pulled into a principal's office. It
They do
wasn't for the
not.
first time. But he had a contract on the table for a permanent job in the school. And he says, we like what you've done. A job has just come up. And jobs didn't come up in those schools, or certainly that school. And I politely had to decline it because I'd made a decision. I wanted to commit to start the business. And I knew that if I accepted that position, which was so, I walked out of his office thinking, what on earth have you done, Tom? That was a great opportunity. You've turned it down. But I thought, if I do that, I'm not going to be able to commit to the business. So I think making that leap of faith is tough, but do it, commit, and throw everything at it would be my first piece of advice. There's I speak to a lot of people who have got ideas and they want to try things, but I think really to immerse yourself in it, it's not going to get off the ground unless you really throw yourself at it. And once you do that, you need to surround yourself with people who are going to help you, whether that be friends, family, people who you don't know that you can ask for a coffee. I mean, the number of coffees I've had with people who were helping me along the way, and I try now to offer myself to have those coffees with people who are considering starting a business, just to immerse yourself with people who know more than you. Because at the start you don't know very much. I certainly knew very little. I'd never been in a corporate world. I'd been in the classroom, and yeah, just to commit and to throw everything at it. I mean, it is kind of tough. It's evenings, it's weekends, it's late nights, it's early mornings. But certainly find as many people who have been there and done it before. And what you find is people love to share their
Yeah, they
experiences,
do.
and they love to support. And I will always be indebted to the people who gave their time to me in certainly that first few months, first year or so.
Yeah. My chap who did that for me back in 1999, my first business, Peter Taylor, ran a group of companies called the Townhouse Group Hotelier, and he had, I think, 4 hotels at the time. And I said, "Can I meet you for coffee?" And he said, "Sure." And he was so generous with his time. And yeah, you never forget those people, do you, Tom? And I think they're integral to everybody's journey when they're building a business.
They absolutely are. And I think I'm a big believer in pass it forward.
Yeah,
So what somebody's done for you, you do for somebody else when you can. And
yeah,
I think a lot of those people, they've come from the same position of starting from nothing, and they know what
yeah.
it's like. So they want to help. And now when I have the opportunity to help other budding entrepreneurs or people who are considering starting a business, I'll do whatever I can, because I know what people did for me. I can't often repay the people that helped me because
Yeah.
they're even further on, but I can sort of pay it forward. And I'm a big believer in that.
Okay, so you started with a laptop in a coffee shop. And what was the first lesson you put online?
I remember it very well. So, yeah, started in a coffee shop. The first sort of 6 months was figuring out some sort of a business plan, which was, I'd actually love to dig out what I'd written to begin with. Um, and to get some software in place, and to sort of get something up and running. And once we had that, it was then to advertise. I spent £100 my first piece of advertising to advertise on a homeschool website. Got somebody who had seen it and enrolled their child. I think I made the school sound a lot bigger than it actually was. It was only one member of staff working in the school back then, but they showed commitment and took a risk. And the first lesson. So I was everything. I was the marketing manager, I was the admissions manager, I was the head teacher, and I was the teacher. And it was a year six science lesson. And there was a young chap called Toby who was our first pupil in the school. And I taught him science. It's a biology lesson. I had taught science for a few years in a school. He was a really bright kid, and he was challenging my science knowledge. But that was the first lesson, and then that family, I'm always grateful because they went and told two other families who then joined, and that's how it spiraled. It started from those first three, that then became six, and that word of mouth was our only marketing tool back then.
Fantastic. That's amazing. What point did you make your first major hire where you thought, this is quite risky in terms of, can I afford this person? At what point, what stage were you at then?
Yeah, so the first thing I needed to do was to bring on a few teachers, because we had some older students enrolled, and of course I'm a primary teacher, and primary teachers are very scared of secondary students, and secondary teachers are very scared of primary students. And when we had some sort of 13, 14, 15-year-olds join, I kind of thought, this is out with my realm of knowledge and experience. So I put an advert up for some teachers, just on a contractor basis, to come and deliver 4 or 5 lessons a week. And it's funny because I brought on about the same sort of time about 4 teachers in a variety of different subjects and age ranges. And I'm so grateful to them for taking a massive leap of faith. And, online education back in this sort of early 2017 was, not discussed, not thought of. Remote working, we didn't use Zoom and Teams as we do now. So it's so new for them, and they took a risk. And the funny thing is that 3 out of 4 of those teachers are still with us today, and they've seen such an evolution. And then came the time where I needed to hire somebody sort of on a permanent basis to support me in sort of running the thing, as opposed to I had to step back from teaching quite quickly and just be the administrator and facilitator of lessons and speaking with parents and all the rest of it, and starting to build things like policies and our safeguarding procedures and all the rest of it. So a girl in Edinburgh called Helen, who I'm still in touch with today. She came on board for the first sort of year or so and supported me and did the most incredible job. That was it. A small team of about four very part-time teachers.
Cool.
And Helen, who worked with me in that cafe, which was our office for the first sort of year and a half, and
Fabulous.
that's got it off the ground.
Now, how many countries are you in now?
We've got students in over 80 countries.
Wow.
It fluctuates all the time. I think we're about 85 at the moment.
Okay, that's amazing. And how many staff?
Staff, we've got 102 staff.
Okay, and I'm asking you this question specifically because people in the early stages of their business look at somebody like you and go, "Well, wow, he's making it. He's made a success of this." But I really want people to understand that it starts with tiny pieces of work, and it slowly builds. And were there any points on the journey where you thought, I want to get off this bus, I've bitten off more than I can chew, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah, many times. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's the analogy of climbing a mountain. I mean, it's baby steps, and it absolutely is. And it takes time. It takes a huge amount of patience to do that, and keep people around you, keep people to support with those steps. But yeah, there was many times of thinking, what have you done? I want to go back and speak to the principal of that school and see if we still have that contract there, that I could just have a nice, easy job, and I knew I was going to get paid at the end of every month, and holiday pay and my pension and all the rest of it, because I didn't have any of that. No. And it was scary. And I hadn't been in that world before. I didn't know what a P&L account was. I, didn't know how to register for VAT and all of these things
Mm.
that I just never experienced before. And it was daunting, and it was huge. And especially in education, when it's something you've absolutely got to get right. You're dealing with the
Yeah.
most important thing that um, the parent's child is that they don't have a more important. I don't want to call them assets, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. They
Yeah.
are just so you've got to get it right as well. And then the sleepless nights thinking about, oh, what if this goes wrong and what if that goes wrong. There were many times where I thought this is just too much, and I would like to be able to just go back to an easier life. But you have those thoughts, you have those feelings, but then you have the reverse of that. You have the other
Mm.
side of thinking, wow, this is exciting. You have the days where you think this is all going to fail and this is awful and I hate this. And you have the days where you've had a win and you think
Uh,
this is great, and you're elated, and you've got to remember those moments more than the ones that get you down, and they're the things that get you through. But there's probably two occasions I can remember where I was seriously close to just saying,
right.
enough is enough. This is either pausing it and just going with what we had and not growing any further,
Mm.
or just stopping the thing altogether and going back to the teaching world.
And what kept you going?
um, do you know what? I always maintain this. My partner Helen, who I moved to New Zealand with, she still keeps me going to this day, and she was the one when I was saying this is too much. She said, no, you keep going. I believe in you. You've got this. You've got this. And she was a massive, still is to this day. I mean, I still have those days today.
Yeah,
today.
of course.
Um,
Yeah.
she was somebody who just, was a sounding board, and yeah, she's an ambitious individual, and she's, genuinely, if it wasn't for her, I would have stopped it. I can tell you that now. And yeah, I think also, when we were sort of invested in this, and we started in September, which is the start of the English school term, and we had 5 or 6 pupils on board. I didn't want to disrupt their academic year. So I thought, if I end this, that's their education. What are they going to go and do? Because they were really enjoying it and they were getting a lot from it. And I thought, I can't. I mean, as a teacher, your love is for the children in the class and the progress that they make, and to put an end to that would have I just couldn't do that. So yeah, combination of things, but yeah, perseverance, patience, all of these words that we chuck around in the sort of entrepreneurial word, so they're absolutely true. You need to have them.
Is Helen a teacher still?
She is she's a yoga teacher.
Oh, wow.
She's got a
Cool.
background in marketing, but she's now a yoga teacher, but also does a lot of sort of consultancy work in
Oh,
marketing.
nice. Oh, brilliant. Okay. Right. Just as a side, it's just popped to, do you ever miss teaching, not for the salary and the security, but just for the teaching?
Yeah, probably every single day. Because I absolutely. Okay, I guess there's two parts to teaching. There's the teaching part where you've got your class and they're your team, they're your community, and they're incredible. I miss that so much. The administrative side of school reports and parent meetings and emails and late nights, don't miss that. I don't think any teacher would. But yeah, absolutely. I really miss the classroom. I miss that. Yeah, that team. Like my class is as a primary teacher, you generally have your class for the whole day, um,
Mm,
and they
yeah.
become so important to you. And for me, it was the academic side was obviously important, but it was the personal growth and the pastoral care side that I loved. I love seeing those kids who would come in at the start of the school year and they would be anxious or timid or lacking confidence, and watching them flourish. That for me was massive. So I missed that hugely. I miss the sports side. I used to do a lot of sports coaching, and when things settle down in the business, I keep saying this, but things never settle down in the
No,
business.
they don't. Yeah.
I want to
Good
go
luck with
back
that.
yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to doing a bit of sports coaching and get back on the touchline, and because I love that side to it. But we I'm seeing that same growth in young people, but just on a different scale now. It's not myself who's, it's not my team, but I'm seeing it. We also do regular in-person meetups. We've got one in Dubai in a few weeks' time, so I'm going to see
Nice.
about hundreds of our families there, and so it's just opportunities like that you can bring the communities together. Which you still got that, but to answer your question, yes, I absolutely miss the
Yeah.
classroom.
Have you taken any aspects of being a primary school teacher into your leadership role?
Wow, that's a great question. Yeah, I think I have. I think I hadn't really been in a. I'd been in a very small middle leadership role prior to starting, but I hadn't been in any leadership positions at all ever, really. In my school career, university, and in my professional career. So I think I had to learn from all the things that I did in the classroom, and I think for me it was looking after people. And as a teacher, that's kind of your sole responsibility: is you look after your team and you make sure everybody's thriving. Respect, empower, thrive is our school motto,
Oh,
but it
wow.
goes deeper than that. It goes to from our whole team. Our We talk about those three words every single day in every class, in every leadership meeting, right from our 6-year-olds in the school to our senior leaders in the school: respect, empower, thrive. And those three words were the three most important words when I was a teacher. I started every single school year with the word respect written in huge letters across my whiteboard in the classroom. And we talked a lot about what that word respect meant, and that respect was imperative to everything. And then empower was a big part. I wanted to make sure that I was, as a teacher, I was a facilitator for learning. I wasn't standing there lecturing people, but I allowed young people to learn independently and learn by themselves. And in a leadership position, I still maintain that today, that I want people to be empowered to experience things for themselves, not to micromanage, but to take those steps back, and I'll have the tools there to thrive. And so I think, yeah, those three words were always three words in the classroom that were so important. So I decided to bring them into the business. And yeah, I think they're as important on day one as they are today. So that empower bit, I think, is a definitely a big part. But as I said before, looking after people, I put a big emphasis on making sure that the team are okay and that they're thriving. And we put big emphasis on well-being and making sure it's a great place to learn, but it's a great place to work as well.
Yeah, lovely. Where are you taking the business? Where next?
Yeah, good question. We There's been so much change and growth over the last few years. Of course, the pandemic was a massive catalyst for development for us. It put online education on the map. It allowed us to think about ways of doing things differently in all aspects of our life. And there's been a lot of change. I guess our school pre-pandemic to post-pandemic. And now we are headed for further accreditations. We are headed for accreditation by the Department for Education for England, and that will then open us up for Ofsted inspection and all of these things. So that's the next part of the journey. But for me, it's about that word thrive, and it's allowing every young person to achieve success. So right now we are a Scottish-based school, but we run the English system. So we prepare young people to go through to GCSE and then on to A level, which works for a lot of young people. But what we know, of course, it's not a one size fits all, and not every child is going to go through that pathway. So we're looking at opening up additional pathways so that young people get to that 14, 15, 16 years of age, and they've got that route through GCSE, A level, further education, possibly university. But I want to open up opportunities through apprenticeship and through vocational things like BTECs and additional pathways. I want to have every young person who's in the school knows that they can go on their own journey and experience success, whatever that is for them. So that for me is a big part of this. Is we want to be able to make sure that we're capturing everybody and we are allowing every young person to truly thrive and to be the best versions of themselves.
I think that's amazing. I think that's fantastic. Okay, so I have a little note here to say you've gone offline, so I'm just going to check that we're still recording. And we can edit this out if we're not still recording, by the way, so don't worry about it. I'm just going to double check that is... Yeah, that's...
It flashed up for me, and then it said back online. I don't know.
Oh, does it? That's fine then. That's all right. We'll all be good. Okay, good. So, last question, Tom. If your business had a personality or a character, either who would it be or how would you describe it?
If it had a personality or a character, you've put me on the spot there. It would be. It would be a really positive. It would be some character with a massive smile on their face.
Right.
I'm a really positive individual. But we're always looking to the future. We're always looking at innovation. We're always looking at things we can do better. We're always looking at how we can improve the service that we offer to our young people. It's a really happy, confident. Yeah, I could probably draw a picture of it to describe it. It's a little bit more challenging. That's probably what I would say.
Oh, great. You came back. We missed you there. So I
don't know what happened there.
I lost connection. Let me ask you that question again. So if your business had a personality or a character, who would it be or how would you describe it?
I think I would describe it as I can't think of a character at this stage, but it would be a really happy character. It would be a really positive, outgoing, adventurous character. It would be somebody or something that is always looking to the future. They'd have a huge smile on their face, and everything would be good. That's how I like to think about. I'm a really positive person. We're progressive, we're future thinking, so it would be somebody who's just full of life and like I say, got that big happy smile. We're welcoming as well. We're very inclusive. We welcome everybody irrespective of their education experience, their background, where they are. We'd be somebody with a big hug.
Oh, nice. I like that. I think that's, and if only all our schooling could feel like that. If every kid on the planet could feel like they were having a big hug when they went to school, I mean, what a difference that would make to the world. That's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was a teacher, I used to my priority before opening any of the textbooks was to make sure that the classroom was a place that the kids wanted to come into. And I thought, if you want to come in here and you're going to enjoy being here, and there's a nice atmosphere and a welcome, and then learning's going to be easy.
Yeah,
easier than not wanting to be there. So I've tried to keep that throughout the school, that it's a place that is welcoming and there is that proverbial hug at the front door for everybody, staff, parents, pupils. They're somewhere where they're supported and they're nurtured and they know that they're somewhere where we're going to look after them.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tom, and the best of luck for the future.
Thank you very much indeed.
The Entrepreneurial Journey Podcast. We're talking business and building a culture